And who's ready for an off-season here in the Florida Only Challenge? Season 1 ended weird, 5-11-1. The last play we watched was a big man scoring a touchdown on a fake field goal to help seal a win for us against the Jets, who still ended up having a better record than us by half a game. So we ended the year on the bottom of the AFC East, but we technically had a better year for year one than we did in any of the other state-only challenges that we've done so far, being California and Ohio, at least that I remember. I don't think we had more than 5 wins in the first season of the Ohio franchise. So pretty sure the Florida one is the best so far, but we're sitting at a weird spot where Jameis Winston is the only quarterback option we really have. And he had 25 touchdowns, 26 interceptions, or 26 and 27. Either way, he had more interceptions than he had touchdowns last year, and we don't trust him. But he's also the only quarterback option we have, so we need to build the rest of the team around him, at least for one more year, and hopefully in the next offseason, there's a draftable quarterback for us that can maybe replace him. But that's not the goal today, or not the main thing today. Instead, we're going to be starting off trying to build primarily through the draft and free agency. The draft, there are some good defensive players, not so much on offense. So offense, we will need to go a little bit harder on in free agency. But before we do any of that, it's time to make a change to our offense and defensive coordinators, because they don't really match what we do. We run a vertical zone run offense with a base 3-4 defense. And maybe the reason that everything was kind of off a little bit is because our offensive coordinator runs a multiple zone run, and our defense is a 3-4 storm, which isn't completely off, which is why the defense maybe played better. But we are going to fire our offensive and defensive coordinators and bring in coordinators that actually match what it is that we run. So for our offensive coordinator, we'll be hiring Wade Bridges, who runs that vertical zone run, and he will also be bringing in 62 staff points. And for our defensive coordinator, we'll be hiring Julius Hodges, who runs that base 3-4, and he'll be bringing in 68 staff points. So let's talk a bit as well as how this helps us. Obviously, we're bringing in new coordinators who are going to affect players in different ways, and the way that Madden has kind of done this is through the talent tree. When you hire guys, you're able to change and give them certain talents. So we have 168 staff points to help try to build this team. And with our offense being as bad as it was last year, we've gone through the entire left side, the on the block side, to make sure that we boosted our offensive line strength, because we got shoved around quite a bit last year. And on defense, we're able to get a lot more. So we've filled out the left side, the trench play, to again make sure that we're boosting the strength to our D linemen. There were a lot of times last year where our interior were getting shoved around, so hopefully that will help. We're also able to go down a little bit of practice makes perfect, and really going on the side of the cornerbacks, trying to make sure that we improve them as much as possible. And now jumping all the way over to the Pro Bowl, we'll take a quick look at the roster here, with the quarterbacks being Tua, Prescott, Burrow, Mahomes, Brady, and Stafford. Running backs are Hunt, Harris, Montgomery, Kamara, Singletary, and Gibson. Fullbacks are Horvath, Gilliam, Ham, and Juszczyk. Receivers are Godwin, Metcalf, Allen, Samuel, Duvernay, and Kupp, Cooper, Myers, Boyd, and Kirk, with Reynolds and Hill joining them. Tight ends, Pitts, Fant, and Knox, Kelsey, Ertz, and Tanyan. So far, no one for us, not that we necessarily expected there would be. Left tackles, Williams, Stanley, Bakhtiari, and Tunsil. And Tunsil, didn't he play at a school in Florida? For some reason, I want to say he played at Florida, but I could very much be wrong there. At left guard, we have Nelson, Batonio, Thuney, and Jenkins, with centers being Kelsey, Hudson, Humphrey, and Lindsley. Right guards, Teller, Mason, Martin, and Lindstrom. And right tackles, Havenstein, Neal, Johnson, and Ramczyk. Over on defense, the edge rushers are Jordan, Franklin Myers, Donald, and Quinn, Clowney, Russo, Bosa, and Simons. The DTs are Buckner, Vita Vea, Kenny Clark, Hill, Armstead, and Hargrave. The left outside linebackers are Watt, Gregory, Hunter, and Walker, with right side being Parson, Thibodeau, Highsmith, and White, and middle linebackers Hightower, White, Edmonds, and Barnes. The cornerback group is Murphy, Bunting, Ramsey, Butler, and Awuzie, Murphy Jr., Humphrey, Sneed, and Bradbury. Safeties are Kazee, Matthew, Ward, and Rapp, and then Bates, Walker, Pitry, maybe? Haven't seen that one on here before, that's a new one, and Harrison. Special teamers are Russo, Pilardi, McKinnon, and Shakir. And then on the other side we have Borregals? Never heard of that guy. Lee, Fuller, and Sermon. So unfortunately no Pro Bowlers, but what about award winners? Dak Prescott wins MVP with the Rams, and Coach of the Year with Nathaniel Hackett with the Broncos. Over on the AFC side, Cooper Kupp wins Offensive Player of the Year. Defensive Player of the Year is Von Miller. Offensive Rookie goes to Kenneth Walker. And Devontae Price for us was number 10. And Defensive Player of the Year goes to Jalen Pitre, maybe is how you pronounce it. Best Quarterback, Tom Brady. With Best Running Back going to Josh Jacobs, actually still on the Raiders here. Best Receiver, obviously going to be Cooper Kupp. Best O-Line going to Brandon Scherf. Best D-Line, Von Miller. And we do have Hendrickson down at 6. And he was the only one that we had there. Best Linebacker goes to Danielle Hunter. Best DB is Marlon Humphrey. And Best Kicker is Graham Gano with McPherson all the way down at 7. For the NFC, Offensive Player of the Year is Chris Godwin. Defensive Player of the Year, DeForest Buckner. With Offensive Rookie going to George Pickens. Defensive Rookie, Kayvon Thibodeau. Best Quarterback, Dak Prescott. Jonathan Taylor wins Best Running Back. Chris Godwin, Best Receiver. So the Rams looked really good in this. Best O-Line, Wyatt Teller. Best D-Line, DeForest Buckner. With Micah Parsons being Best Linebacker, which is pretty much just Best Edge Rush. Jimmy Ward wins Best DB. And then Best Kicker goes to Rodrigo Blankenship, who I don't believe is even on a 53-man roster in the NFL currently. I think he's a practice squad guy. So unfortunately for us, year one, no accolades at all. No one won anything individually, nor the team. So let's sim on into the offseason. We'll see who won the Super Bowl between the Raiders and the Saints. And we'll start to try to do something here this offseason. And hopefully that means building from a 75 overall to hopefully something much better. And the winner of the Super Bowl is the Las Vegas Raiders, 28-23 against the Saints. It was at least a close matchup, and Mac Jones won Super Bowl MVP, despite him having trouble maintaining an actual starting spot in real life. So good for the Raiders. I haven't seen them win in quite a while. But obviously the goal is for our Dolphins to win, and it looks like we might have had some people already retire because our overall has already dropped this offseason. It was just a 75 overall across the board. Now offense down to a 73, defense 74. But we at least have a couple upgrades here to maybe get things back moving in the right direction. A lot of these are going to be our practice squad guys, but we might need our practice squad guys this next year. And pretty much if they're a low overall, I'm just improving what they're already best at. That's the best way to get their overall higher. And luckily, most of these backup corners are mostly man-to-man guys, and I prefer man corners, so that'll be good moving forward. As we move on over to the closed free agency, we have a chance to see who retired. And I could look through everyone, but primarily I wanted to see if any of our guys ended up retiring, and we did have several. Jimmy Graham, Carlos Dunlap, and T.Y. Hilton all retire. I was going to try to trade Hilton, so unfortunately not going to have an option there. And one of the offensive linemen I was really hoping wouldn't retire did end up retiring. Not sure we could have traded for him, but Rodney Hudson retires after 12 years. So now we're only down to there being maybe one other starting caliber offensive lineman we could potentially trade for. So we're really going to need to develop some guys. But we have our own re-signings we need to worry about first. And if they have like you see here with Tommy Townsend, the re-sign interest being so low, I'm not even going to try to offer them here because they're not going to accept it. We'll wait till we get to the open free agency. I'll just write down their names so I know who I need to go after. Tommy Townsend is someone I will try to bring back. John Bostic, not too intrigued, 32 years old. If we can find other backups that are younger, that's preferred. Same kind of thing for John Feliciano, but at this point, who knows what all will be available for offensive line, but if they're this low overall, no one's going to be going after them very early. Terrence Brooks, same thing. Now, one player I would like to bring back who does have some interest is Nate Evans. He's a younger middle linebacker we could try to develop a good bit. He's kind of wanting a lot of money. He has some interest in us. I feel like I could get this cheaper in the free agency, open free agency, but it's not really letting me go any lower. So I'll at least lower the bonus a little bit. Not too interested, but I feel like we could get him back. Brandon Walton does have at least a little bit of interest in staying around, so we'll bump up the bonus a little bit. 3-year deal. He'll test too, but again, will probably still end up coming back to us. K.R. Thomas, though, will return on a 3-year deal worth about $1 million a season. And I'm going to offer Roderick Johnson as well. It's just going to be much less than what he's expecting, but he's a 64 overall. He's not interested. Had to give it a chance, but again, I'm going to write down all these guys' names, and we'll go after them in open free agency. And now moving over to open free agency, we have 5 offers on the board. And you might notice Auden Tate. Why would I be going after Auden Tate when I have a pretty deep group of receivers already? It's because he's 6'5", 228 with 85 speed, strength at a 70. He's going to move to tight end as long as we get him to sign his offer. So we're going to evaluate these. Not a lot of high-end guys on here, but just trying to, one, add some depth back to the offensive line with 3 of these 5 and some depth to our DTs with Zachary Carter. So let's start some evaluation process here. See if we can get anyone to sign. And with that first one in, it looks like we already have a couple off the board. And we have a couple people signing. Brandon Walton has come back, and we bring in Fred Johnson as pure backup. However, we do have competition here now with Auden Tate with a strong offer coming in from the Falcons. So if we bump this up to a 4-year deal for about $5.5 million a season, where does that put us in terms of the Falcons offer? And we're tied pretty much. So I would like to put in a better offer then. So we'll make it a 4-year, $6 million a season deal. Again, I think he would be killer at tight end. So hopefully that'll get the job done. However, after doing that, we now have less of an offer. It's confusing. Yeah, I know it's a new system, but I feel like what I learned with the Cardinals offseason, as I've already filmed that, I don't know if it's out yet or not, you kind of have to withdraw your offer and then completely give a new offer for it to kind of work right. It's weird. And after offering a little bit more money, at least gets us in the front. I don't know. It seems a little half broken half the time. We'll see if Auden Tate signs. And he's no longer on our board. And he's not on our signings, which means that Auden Tate was signed and probably went to the Falcons. And indeed, no longer available, did sign with the Falcons. So we're still iffy at tight end. I was really hoping that would work. And after changing a little bit of some of these offers, I did also offer Trey Nixon. Try to bring him back as depth. And okay, Nixon no longer there. And that's because he came in. So we at least got a receiver, just unfortunately pure receiver, and not a potential really good tight end. The other 2 still haven't signed, being Zachary Carter and Roderick Johnson. And in round 2 of offers, we've added Muhammad. Bears have a better offer. I don't need to bring him in, so he's just an offer I've put out. But we did bring in, or have offered, Mario Edwards. Still trying to get Carter, who now definitely has some competition. So we might need to up that offer there. Trying to bring in Marcel Harris, because our former backup middle linebacker who ended up playing half the season was, I want to say like Nate Hobbs or something? Nate Evans? Maybe something like that. he ended up getting picked up by the Giants. So trying to find another backup cover guy, and that is what Harris does. Also still trying to get Roderick Johnson. But now with the increased interest here, gonna need to bump up this contract offer. And that will definitely get us in the front. So let's go ahead and evaluate these and see if we could get anyone in. And Muhammad still hasn't decided. Edwards hasn't decided either, nor Johnson. But what about the other people? So Carter does finally end up signing with us, and we do bring in Marcel Harris. So been able to bring in some guys. No big splashy guys. Unfortunately, the ones that we tried to get weren't too interested. And Muhammad does finally accept the other offer from the Bears, I believe. So he's off the board. Still have Edwards and Johnson. And after going through one more, Edwards still hasn't. But did Johnson join? Indeed, he did. So Roderick Johnson does come back as, I believe, one of our higher overall backup linemen. And now in the last stage of open free agency, evaluate the offer here for Edwards. Eventually, you assume he's going to join, and I'm pretty sure he just did. He did, so we at least get some more depth at edge rush. So it looks like most of the guys we actually brought in weren't exactly great guys, impactful guys, but we're at least able to bring back some depth across the board, both offense and defense. But now, in that final week of free agency, is the last time we could take a look at the scouting board before we have to choose 3 more focus scouts before the draft. So earlier this season, one of the ones we had selected was Chauncey Felder, because we wanted to find out more information about him. At middle linebacker, 6'1", 226, 23 years old. We have 80% scout done on him. We know he's pretty fast with some decent strength. He's just a very athletic linebacker with A-zone coverage, B-man coverage. Don't ask him to shed any blocks. He's definitely going to struggle with that, but he could tackle an open field with B awareness. And I don't believe, there it is, C play rec. So not too bad, especially for around 3 to 4. Expect to maybe take him round 2. He might be someone that we have that focus scouting on just to find out for sure where he's going to go. The other guy we had selected was Lonnie Perriman, who will be, hopefully, one of our first round picks. He goes from a round 1 to 2 to a round 1. He actually has quite a bit of speed, decent strength, acceleration, and agility is definitely there. With B-man coverage, A press, C zone, B tackle, with A hit power, catching, C block shedding, B awareness. I mean, day 1 starter, for sure. So he'll definitely be one of our first round picks. We do have 2 of them. And I say definitely as in I will definitely try to make him one of our first round picks. The other, Frank Stump, also went from a projected 1 to 2 to a round 1, despite going down 4 spots over the course of the season. He actually has quite a lot of speed. Did not expect that, with some decent strength. Yeah. Looks really good there. C-man coverage with B zone. D block shedding, but with B tackle, B hit power. Could play either of the safety spots. Give us some flexibility. I think we go corner and safety in the first round, hopefully. Again, I don't know what our entire... because it doesn't say here. I don't know exactly where we're picking, but definitely looking solid there. Another couple options here at DT. Johnny Woodyard, also around 3 to 4. I feel like he used to be a day 3, but has gone up a little bit. I don't necessarily need to scout much on them. Maybe Johnny Woodyard just to find out where he's going. At 50% though, doubt he would end up being finished scouted before the end. Chauncey Pope, again around 3 to 4. If he's there and we have a pick, you could take him, but he's definitely just a finesse rusher. On the offensive line, the only draftable guy would be Antonio Carr, and he's definitely going to be someone who I select as a focus scout. At right guard, there's a couple day 3s, maybe Holcomb could be that third guy that we have selected. Receiver-wise, I just wasn't all too intrigued with most of the receivers, and we have decent enough depth. Could potentially, actually, Jarvis Allen goes up to a projected round 1 to 2, and I expected him to be pretty good. What are his physicals, though? Ran a 4.5, not bad, with some good strength. Agility and acceleration aren't great. but he does have A to C awareness, A ball carrier vision, A break tackle. Seems like he could be a solid power back. I don't think we need to go after that round 1. If he's there round 2, maybe. And unfortunately, the potential undrafted quarterback doesn't shoot up to a round 1. So that's what it looks like. And who's ready to start drafting? We're actually picking 4th. So there are actually 3 other teams who played worse than we did. But let's take a look at our board, help try to see where some of these guys that we want are actually projected to go, as well as where our picks are. So we actually have the 4th and 7th pick in the first round, which I think would be pretty big for us in selecting the guys that we want, because they shouldn't be anywhere near the top, and as we get through the top 15, they aren't. So we should be safe to sim through, hopefully. So the first pick in the draft to the Green Bay Packers is Lindsey Church, right end out of Michigan State. The Commanders, with the second pick, go Nick Cotton, left tackle, Oklahoma. The Arizona Cardinals pick up Travis Suttle, left outside linebacker from Auburn. And now we are on the clock. We could technically even trade away our pick and pick some other, get more picks, but I really don't think there's much people in this draft to do it. We could try to pick up an extra 1 next year maybe, but I don't think we need to question the picks we have. We have 2 first-round guys that we know. Let's select our 2 first-round guys. They may not be the highest overall. They might be later first rounds, but they're still the highest projected who are available to us. And that's the key thing with this series. Also, I did select Jarvis Allen for a focus scout, and we didn't find out any information on him. If he's still available there in the second round, where we pick 4th, I might look to go his way, but we'll see if he falls. The other ones I selected were Antonio Carr. Again, didn't find out any information on him. And middle linebacker, Chauncey Felder, who goes up to around 2 to 3. And we have an early 3rd. Maybe we end up going with the safe option there and picking him in the 2nd, or maybe we trade down and maybe get both. Who knows? We'll see when we get to that point. But either way, our first round pick is going to be Lonnie Perriman, cornerback out of Florida State, 22 years old, and he's a hidden dev, 93 speed, not a whole lot of strength with a 59, but 94 acceleration, 94 change of direction with 90 jumping and 92 agility. He should be solid. And of course, we do pick again in a couple more spots. So the Baltimore Ravens, 5th in the draft, select quarterback Dylan Gallagher out of Virginia. The Jets, from our own division, they end up picking up Tyrone Bishop, Georgia outside linebacker. And now again, back on the clock. So let's go ahead and make the decision here. Draft our only other first round guy, safety, Frank Stump. Technically, I guess now didn't change anywhere throughout the season, because now that's down to a 0. Went from a round 1 to 2 up to a round 1, 21 years old, out of Miami, with some cover and hitting abilities. I didn't even look at the player notes. Delivers bone-crushing hits, aggressive ball hawk for better or worse, has a motor that runs through the whistle, often looks to rip the ball from runners, shows good discipline, and won't get flagged much. What more could you ask for at safety? He's our selection, and he's a hidden dev with 90 speed, 90 jumping, 82 change of direction with 91 agility and acceleration. That's a great start. Great start. And I could look to try to trade up to get that running back at some point. I don't think that'll be necessary. We will jump to our second round pick, and we'll pick best player available. And unfortunately, the running back is not still available. So no new running back at this point. But what about that middle linebacker projected around 2 to 3? He's still there, and I believe would be the highest rated guy left on our board. We could just check everyone. Round 3 to 4, round 3 to 4. There is a receiver round 2 to 3. I just don't think he was that good. And as we go through a lot of potential undrafted, round 3 to 4. And we would probably need that third round pick just to make sure we do get Antonio Carr. So I think picking the linebacker here would be the smartest idea for us. So Chauncey Felder with the second round pick, early second round pick too. We'll pick him up. And he's just a normal dev. Couldn't keep the streak going, but 88 speed, 89 acceleration should be really good against tight ends with some good strength as well. Hopefully he will be a good guy to maybe even replace Perriman, at least in cover downs. And early in the third round, pick 4, we got to go with an offensive lineman. The only draftable guy, not necessarily the best offensive lineman. 34 reps isn't too bad, and we do need a center. I don't even know if we have one on roster. A, run block finesse. C, run block power and pass block power with some good potential elsewhere. I think we got to go his way, and he very well could be a day one starter with a hidden dev. 86 strength will go up to a 90 with our coaching boost. 79 speed. We're off to a good start so far. Let's hope we keep that going. And we are picking again here late in the third round. We don't have a 4th and we don't have a 6th. So need to keep that in mind as we take a look on our board, across our board here. There are still some day 3 guys on the offensive line, and I may consider Donnie Holcomb in the 5th round if he's still there. But as for this pick, it comes down to 2 defensive linemen, Chauncey Pope and then a DT and Johnny Woodyard. Now with Woodyard, both projected round 3 to 4, this is about where you expect. Woodyard is 6'5", 291, 23 years old, out of Florida. He's not very fast, has some strength, but he has no block shedding. He's strictly maybe a finesse rusher, maybe a finesse and power rusher, but you can't say for certain. Chauncey Pope is 6'4", 265, 22 years old, and he has a bit more strength, much less speed, but he has some acceleration. He would be a backup edge guy with a little bit more block shedding, and power moves could end up being the same. He went up several spots throughout the season. I think that's the safe choice to go with. So Chauncey Pope is our next selection. Normal development with 78 speed, 78 strength, would go up to 82, will provide us some young depth. And now sitting early 5th round, I think this is the time that we maybe go with Donnie Holcomb. 6'2", 314, 22 years old, out of Florida. He's a very strong guy who has some decent acceleration and agility. When we look at the ratings, run blocks seems okay. Pass block could be really good, could be pretty bad. We're not sure. But with B lead block and A impact block, I think you kind of just have to take a shot to get some youthful guys who could hopefully develop. Donnie Holcomb is the pick. Normal dev with 89 strength. Something we wanted to get better at this offseason was strength on both the offense and defensive line. Holcomb does that. And now almost 2 full rounds later, last pick for us in this draft class. Do we have any draftable guys left? There is a guard in Cordell Lamb, who doesn't look great. There is still Johnny Woodyard available. We could go with him. He's dropped quite a lot. There is a day 3 young linebacker, Stephen Gold, who could provide us some more youth at the middle linebacker spot, who maybe can cover a little bit. And of course, the potential undrafted quarterback was drafted, so that's great. Tight ends, there is one tight end who is a possession guy. We could use another tight end, Malik Frazier, 6'6", 269, 23 years old. Has some decent speed to him, a little bit of strength. Hand are not great. I don't think he's the go-to. I think here we catch the guy who has fallen, Johnny Woodyard. He's not top end, but could provide us some youthful depth, and that's something we need, even on the inside as an interior pass rusher. So we'll bring in Woodyard. Normal dev, 86 strength. Again, just like the last guy we brought in with Holcomb. Bringing some strength to the defensive line. And that rounds out the draft. So let's skip ahead to the end and find out how good some of these guys are. I'm really excited about that corner and safety. And here are the results, and I see 4 starting caliber players all drafted within the first 3 rounds. So let's go one by one. Perriman is a 77 with our coaching boost. which is a great rating to start off with. He has 74 man coverage, 76 press. I honestly expected a little bit more, but still really solid with some tackle ability. I think he potentially starts in the slot this year and maybe makes his way onto the outside. We could have a little bit of a competition for who plays where. I know Xavier Rhodes is regressing. We saw Pierre come in for a little bit of, or actually I think, well, he was injured. So a little bit of the second half of last season, and he seemed to play okay. So I don't know, we have some quarterback competition. I like it. At safety, Frank Stump is a 75 overall, which again, I think is pretty close to our highest overall safety, with LaMarcus Joyner regressing from last year. 90 speed, 78 zone coverage, with 80 hit power. Man coverage is a 65. I think he plays free safety this year, considering we have Keanu as well. And we could just have a tag team of safeties who can hit and tackle well. I don't think that there's any problem with that. Plus, we get younger, 21 years old. I like it. I like it. And Chauncey Felder ends up being a 72, does have a -1 morale right now. Don't know why. He ended up being drafted earlier than projected. He comes in with 88 speed, 82 would be 83 tackle, with 71 zone coverage, 59 man, so definitely needs to work on that. But solid. Block shedding is suspect, so will be a starter in the nickel. In the base packages, we'll probably still keep Perriman. But again, really good talent at a young age. 23? Not too bad. By the time this series ends, would be 27. So I like it. And early in the third round, we find an offensive starting lineman. You couldn't say that in previous Maddens, really. Antonio Carr, 74 overall with the coaching boost. Again, hidden dev. 3 of our top 4 picks, all hidden dev. And he is a finesse blocker that is fairly balanced. Need to work a little bit on the power to at least get that up to a 70. But the finesse is good because we are a vertical zone offense. That'll fit in just fine for us. And he might even be either our second or third highest overall offensive lineman coming in. So that's great. Chauncey Pope, again with the coaching boost, goes up to a 67 overall, 22 years old, with 72 finesse moves. Strength goes up to an 82. Be a solid guy to play on the end of like a base package whenever we go down to or go to the nickel formation. Definitely going to continue to have Phillips and Grenard. They both played very well last year. So Chauncey Pope will be a solid young backup to develop. We then went after Donnie Holcomb, again to be another backup, 64 with a coaching boost, and has at least a balance base to start off with. So we could kind of work him in whatever direction we want, obviously being a finesse kind of preferred offensive line. We could easily go that direction. He already has his highest blocking rating being run block finesse, not counting impact block or lead block. So solid developmental guy there, and if he has to start, okay, he could develop better that way. And then with our last pick, we went with Johnny Woodyard, who was projected around 3 to 4, fell all the way down to late 7th, and he definitely doesn't have any block shedding. We knew that. Has some finesse ability, but he has some strength, some tackling, not very fast, but he's a developmental DT, and I think that'll be fine. And if you were curious about Jarvis Allen, he ends up being a 76 overall, taking out the morale and boost hidden dev. And he had has 88 speed, 90 acceleration, 82 break tackle with 83 trucking, 76 juke move, 93 carrying, plus 69 catching. He would have been a really good running back. Unfortunately, he didn't end up falling to us, so we'll stick with the running backs we currently have. But we're not done yet. We'll move on over to the preseason and go through the entire free agent market, find any young Florida-only guys we could bring in. And now with almost a completely full roster, 74 of 75 spots, here's who we have. Quarterbacks still looking the same with Jameis Winston and James Morgan. At running back to Ernest Johnson, Marlon Mack, Travis Homer, and Chad Harden. Unfortunately, Price did not want to come back. At receiver, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, Van Jefferson, Traquan Smith. We brought in Brandon Powell. Trey Nixon returned. Rashad Perriman we did sign, and I want to move him to tight end to see how well he can do. We also brought in Antonio Callaway and undrafted rookie Corey Hottling. Something like that. But Perriman, let's move him over to tight end and see what he can do. And at tight end, we do still have Jordan Akins, Chris Herndon IV. Rashard Perriman basically stays the same overall, a 67. We brought back Ryan Izzo, who we cut before last season started, and we signed undrafted rookie Malik Frazier, who has some speed, at least more than Izzo, and at least has some base ratings you could try to work around, but as a 57 overall, he'll be headed to the practice squad for sure, if not, unfortunately, cut. At left tackle, Jawan Taylor, Roderick Johnson returns, and we signed undrafted rookie Jared Edwards, and Stone Forsyth still stays around, probably headed back to the practice squad if he has eligibility or cut. At left guard, Eric Flowers, and we drafted Donnie Holcomb. Center, draftee Antonio Carr. We also signed undrafted rookie Ben Moreland. At right guard, Austin Ryder will probably start again. We brought back Brandon Walton as a backup. And at right tackle, DJ Humphreys, followed by Cameron Irving, who was a spot starter for us last year with injuries. And we also brought in Fred Johnson, again to backup. At left end, we signed Mario Edwards Jr. Chad Thomas stays around, and we did draft or sign. No, we did. Yeah, it was a draftee, Chauncey Pope. At right end, Trey Hendrickson, as well as Jonathan Grenard, who will probably move to that left spot. One of those guys are moving to the other spot. At DT, we have quite a lot. Tyre Tart, D'Adrian Sennett, and Taven Bryan were all the main guys last year. We ended up bringing in, for depth, Zachary Carter. Jonathan Ford we signed as a free agent. And with our last pick in the draft, we ended up getting Johnny Woodyard. Again, some more depth, and signed undrafted DT Mac Bennett. Some of these guys might get moved over to the end spots. At left outside linebacker, we have Jalen Phillips and Kerr Thomas staying around from last year. Middle linebacker, we have a couple new guys. Denzel Perriman and Alex Anzalone were the main guys, I would say, last year. We drafted Chauncey Felder, who will definitely be starting in the nickel. And then Jeremiah Moon was on the practice squad for us last year, and Cameron Joyce will probably be joining him there. Right outside linebacker, JPP stays around for one more year, so he might get some play time. We also signed Marcel Harris, who is more of an inside linebacker, so he will need to be moved. And Joshua Kando was a bit of a backup, played a little bit here and there last year. At corner, Shaquille Griffin was our number one guy last year. Xavier Rhodes played well but has regressed, and Lonnie Perriman will be starting over him. What we do at slot, not quite sure. It could be Perriman, and Rhodes plays on the outside whenever Perriman goes to the slot. We also brought in Hargraves. Artie Burns was with us last year, same as Quinton Dunbar. James Pierre also was with us last year and has progressed a little bit. Maybe he gets some playing time. We did sign Mike Jackson Sr. Thomas Oliver III was on our practice squad. Isaiah Brown, I think, was also on the practice squad, as well as Tay Goen. And we signed undrafted rookie Damian Beasley. At free safety, LaMarcus Joyner, PJ Williams were both with us last year. Bubba Bolden was a free agent, so we ended up picking him up. Might be a practice squad guy, as well as Marquise Bell, who was there last year. At strong safety, Keanu Neal was pretty solid for us. We drafted Frank Stump, and he'll probably be starting over at free safety. Redwine might sub in there as well at points. We saw him play pretty well when he was given the chance. And Donovan Steiner was on the practice squad. Kicker was Evan McPherson, will continue to be. And I forgot to sign a punter, and there's no longer a Florida punter available. So we might be trading for a punter to start the next episode. But that is where the roster currently sits. Some guys will move around. We will start next episode simming through the preseason, or I'll probably already have done that prior to starting the episode. And we'll thin down the roster, We get started week 1 against the Chargers. Really good draft. We got 4 starting caliber guys and then some backups. Free agent market, it's never great year 1 of fantasy, but hopefully the offensive line holds up better this year. We do have that new center and a couple new backups, so hopefully that is an improvement and we could try to get the offense going in some way, shape, or form. Next episode, we'll get a look at the next draft class. If it's not very good, we could use next year's picks to just trade for players. So there's always going to be some sort of improvement, and we're definitely going to need that for season 2. So make sure you stick around. If you're not already subscribed, to make sure you do so, and tick that bell icon to be notified of when these videos go live. This series posted every Wednesday and Saturday, with the Cardinals' traditional Madden series posted every Monday and Thursday. So check that one out if you haven't already. And until then, we'll see you later. Bye.